Hello everyone, welcome to WA3. Okay, in this video, I am going to be going over the specific details and requirements of WA3. Note on my screen, you should be able to see this clearly. We are following that same MLA format, which, as you see, has a name, the professor's name. In this case, it's Professor Acorn. Obviously, if you have me, it would be Professor Leonard. You have the class number, and you have the date expressed as day, month, and year. All right, then you have a double space goes directly to your title. In this case, it's Adolescence and Adventure Programming. Now, the thrust of this essay is to inform your audience, whereas WA2 was a personal position paper that was your purpose was to take a stance on your topic or issue. In this essay, what we're doing is we are going to inform our audience. Does that mean you can't have a stance or an opinion? Absolutely not. You're welcome to have any opinions you want. You just need to understand that your objective is to inform. So your thesis will be particularly just informing your audience. There is no strong verb that's calling, making a call to action, such as we should, ought to, need to, time has come. So it's nothing like that. In fact, let's go ahead and just start right here on the first page. You'll see again in MLA, every single line in the paper is double spaced. The only exception to this is the works cited, and the works cited will begin, and you'll see right here, the works cited will begin on the top of the following page, okay? So you aren't going to double space. You're just going to go to the top of the next coming page. So, but everything else here is double spaced. All right, so we have a 1/2 to 3/4 page. I'm sorry, 1/2 to 3/4 of your page should be your introduction. I think another way of looking at this is 5 to 7 sentences. I've seen the most common way to define the introduction paragraph is to have a hook, have a thesis, and well develop that point. That doesn't quite make the mark always. So I think if you consider that you need to have some meat to that, or you need to have some development. You just can't expect your audience, i.e. readers, to read your hook and then go straight into your thesis. You need to give some context to your topic. So let's go ahead and look at the example here in WA3. We have the strong statement, which includes some descriptive passages and clearly stating what this topic will be about. This student has used a very long opening sentence, and you'll see. New Hampshire teens have the incredible advantage of being near an abundant variety of natural beauty. Now she's going to list. The mountains, the lakes, the ocean, and the forest all provide ample opportunity for outdoor recreation. And while such proximity to all this beauty means that many teens grow up experiencing these incredible opportunities for themselves, many do not. That's a strong statement with a very long first sentence. And because it's a very long first sentence, I would go back to that idea again. You're always looking for about 1/2 to 3/4 of a page will be that introduction. So, and she asks, she has a sequence, she brings a question next. Do young adults who are not equipped with skills to engage safely and confidently with the natural resources that surround them miss out on the benefits that experiencing nature provides? Or do they venture into the wilderness alone and unprepared? Question mark. So then she answers her questions. Adventure education programs can solve this dilemma, period. So that it technically is 4 sentences right there. Now we have her thesis, and note her thesis says 1, the title very clearly, and 2, the subpoints she will be covering in the pages that follow. So this is her thesis. Adventure education programs promote personal growth, enhance social skills, and provide experiences unlike any other in which teens regularly engage. So, right here, adventure educational programs is the actual, topic of her of her essay right here. I use the word paper, same. So, but what is it doing? She's explaining that she is going to inform us how it promotes personal growth, it enhances social skills, and provides experiences like any other. Now, in that first essay, the difference is it would have to have been some sort of call or very strong persuasive stance. Adventure education programs should be implemented. Here, she is just informing her audience or us readers how it promotes personal growth, enhances social skills, and provides experiences. Okay. So that it is, in way, we can obviously see she's taking a stance on this. However, she's informing us of this. So in this context, we should expect that she's going to provide evidence, i.e., examples from other academic articles, which you have located or she has located from the online library, or maybe even elsewhere. Okay, so right here, you'll see here the first paragraph. In adventure programs, students have the opportunity to learn more about the environment, gain wilderness and survival skills, and practice a recreational pursuit. But even more importantly, students have the opportunity for personal growth. And you'll see right here, this absolutely aligns with that first subpoint. So that this was the first thing that she listed that she will be covering. We have adventure educational programs promote personal growth. So this paragraph is about personal growth. Now, with her strong statement, she is bringing evidence. And if you continue reading, you'll see she's using a study of South African adolescents, the findings of Bjorn Opper and colleagues. And you will recognize this from WA1. We're not going to be identifying them as Opper et al. We're going to list them all completely the first time that we use them in the sentence. I also feel like it really does help if you name your source, your author or article in the actual sentence yourself. That's being completely transparent. Do you have to? No, you can also use a citation, as you will see she does later on. Now, it does a good academic form in MLA would dictate that you would name them in the sentence, just like you're introducing your friend, you're introducing your reader to the author or authors, and perhaps the study or article or even the journal, okay? And then from then on, you can simply go ahead and label them as she has done here in an in-text citation. And note these are the requirements of MLA, Opper et al. 195. Opper et al. Is the last name of the first researcher, which is Bjorn Opper. Et al. Stands for and others in Latin. Okay, so I don't care, and MLA doesn't care if there are 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 authors, although I think 20 is a little more unusual, if not rare. They will all be reduced to et al. Et al. Stands for et is a, and in Latin, and al is altenium. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. But in any case, it must have a period after that because we are abbreviating that word altenium, okay? So you're saying Opper and others. But the nice thing is that when we introduce them in the sentence, we can say Bjorn Opper and colleagues, or we can say Opper and fellow researchers, Opper and his fellow psychiatric specialist, or you're actually giving them more of a label than just saying and others. Now, you'll see here, she uses more evidence to support her point that adventure programs have the opportunity to give students personal growth. After Opper et al., she is using the research right here of Sandra Gibbons, PhD, and she's actually calling this the findings of Sandra Gibbons, PhD, and she's even labeling or telling us what, who is this Sandra Gibbons, PhD? What is her call to be an expert in this? She's a professor of exercise science, physical education, and of the University of Victoria and her colleagues again, no and others, okay? So we are here telling our readers, look, don't believe me, I'm not an expert, I'm just a student, but I have the research of Sandra Gibbons, PhD, and guess what she is? She's a professor, and she's bringing her colleagues along, and they have findings. And then right here, our student is explaining what her findings, what her studies show, and that she actually uses that verb, show. When two separate adventure programs were adopted in the place of traditional physical education classes, students' self-perception of their overall self-worth, behavior, conduct, physical education classes, student self-perception of their overall self-worth, behavioral contact, and scholastic competence and appearance increased. Note this little comma right here before the and. We call that an Oxford comma. Just know it exists, and know that when you're listing many different items in a sentence, and right before that last item you put an and. This is something we learned in 3rd grade, right? Well, what I'm asking you to do now is to add a comma right here before that and. Again, it's become more and more grammatically correct. In fact, I will be sending out some information on that. We have legal cases now are being won based on that Oxford comma. Now, after that, note she ends this beautifully. I think this is very well done. She actually ends this with her words. And what does this all mean? The large effects over the control group were present for both programs and show that the results were statistically and practically meaningful. What is she saying? She's saying, hey, this evidence shows that the results were meaningful, or she's supporting that topic sentence. Now, you see the next one, she goes on, and she's talking about interpersonal skills. And this right here is something she brings up, enhance social skills. And you'll see she's going to go ahead and segue into interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills means well, you'll see interperson is when you're communicating with more than one person. It's something you're collaborating with other people. And interpersonal skills are listening, communication, teamwork, leadership, small group activities. All this leads to her second key point, which she identifies in her thesis. She's going to talk about adventure education programs and how they promote. The second thing is enhance social skills. So we're going to go see this whole paragraph is all about this. So again, she just follows that same format. She uses a topic sentence. She introduces her subpoint. And now she's going to bring in her experts. And now she's going to bring in Elizabeth A. Spielman. And she actually gives us, again, she's telling us how Elizabeth Spielman is an expert. She's giving us a glimpse of why we should listen. Actually, I'm sorry. She actually has two people here, Spielman and Wagstaff. And a note too, so when you have an MLA, when you have two authors, it's different. Et al., that rule for et al. Only applies when there are 3 or more authors to a source. When you have 2, both are named. So it's always that same requirement in MLA. You have an author and you have a page number. Or if it is 2 authors, obviously it'd be 2 authors and a page number. If it's 3, it's the author, et al., and page number. In this, these are the requirements. We always need to know who the author is and what page we can find the information, whether it's a direct quote, a paraphrase, or a summary. And right here, you see she is actually bringing in the words of Spielman and Wagstaff. And she's bringing in their direct, call that a direct quote. I know you all know how to do that. I've seen evidence of that. So you'll see here, according to Elizabeth A. Spielman, lecturer in outdoor education at Georgia College, and Mark Wagstaff, professor in the Department of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism at Radford University. Common items listed in the contract are respect, selflessness, active listening, honesty, trying one's hardest, and openness to critical feedback. End quote, page 92. Now, because she is using the names of the authors in the sentence, all we need at the end of this, at the end of her direct quote, is the page number. Now, if you go back up here, we had a paraphrase, you'll see actually she has Opera et al. She used Opera et al. And a page number. And she uses this because this information in the sentence is originally from Opera et al. And it's found on page 195. But she is not giving them credit for it in the sentence. So because she's not giving them credit in the sentence, she must include it in the in-text citation, or right here, Opera et al., page 195. Now, had she explained in the sentence, as she does before, beyond Opera and colleagues explained the effects were sustainable, meaning the skills acquired, or if she had said, Opera et al. Further explained the effects were sustainable, meaning the skills acquired on the trip combined stable and consistent. So that whole thing, if she included that in the sentence, she would only need to include the page number. Another way of thinking about this is the key components you need to be transparent and let your audience know where your information comes is the author and the page number. I tell my students that if you think of it this way, in your academic community, you are always writing your research paper for the next researcher. So it's as if your next researcher is looking over your shoulder and wanting to know where they can find this information so they can take your research and expand on it, take it to the next place, or pass the torch, so to speak. Okay. So therefore, if that next researcher wants to know, hey, where did we get this information? Where did we get that information that skills acquired were stable and consistent for 3 months? Where did she get that? Well, we need to know, one, that Beyond Opera said it, and we need to know, two, it is on page 195. Both of those are crucial elements for MLA. And APA has a nuanced way approaching this as well, okay? They also prioritize the date. That's something that MLA does not do, although date is very important. So I'm not going to continue further, but you'll see throughout this that it's the same approach. We always include the author's words, and then we have the evidence as well. And evidence is always clearly stated by in the sentence and or with an in-text citation. One thing that is different in this essay is I'd like you to include a works cited page. Again, the requirements of this essay is 2 new articles that you have not used for WA2 or WA1. These should be a database source that you have located from the online library. Secondly, I'd like you to include, so works cited are actually sources that you are citing in your essay. Citing meaning an in-text citation, like Opera et al., page 25, or naming them right here. For example, Rob Cooley, this is citing him in the sentence, okay? The other thing I'd like you to include in this one is I'd like you to include a works consulted. What this means is you're looking at this source, but you're not using it in your paper. You're not citing it. It's something you've read, but you're not like listing it and saying, hey, Clinton Culp explained, or Culp, page 25. So if I were to look at the works consulted, they're not listed in your paper with the in-text citation or in the sentence. So I'd like you to include those two. What I'd also like to point out here that I'm asking is I'm really having everybody avoid contractions. So contractions are do not, has not. In fact, one way to do this is if you look here on the very top, you will see the find option. And you can actually click on, okay, you can actually click on that little apostrophe, and it will take you to the paper here. So one's actually is possessive, Right here, don't. Okay, so if what I'm going to ask you to do, unlike this student, so we have do not. Okay, oopsie, do not excel. Okay. So the next thing you would go is you go to the next one, you go here. Oh, she only has one contraction in this whole paper. Okay. I think it's, I go back and forth with this requirement. However, we have a does not. Okay. I do find that it's easier for students to do this throughout. In your final paper, I'm going to require you to not use contractions or to use formal academic voice, which means no I or first person and no shouldn't, couldn't, isn't, won't. So basically you're going to be saying would not, could not, should not, is not. So I think it's good practice on WA3 to go ahead and start with that contraction free first person free. Okay. All right. So besides that, the other requirements for it are actually only, 3 to 4 pages. Okay. And you'll see this is a solid 4 pages. I do need a solid full 3 pages. Okay. So you'll see if you have like, almost, 3 pages, just you go 2 sentences in or 3 sentences in, that's not quite acceptable. I need a full 3 pages, 3 to 4 pages. Also, do remember to, I think I've been telling everybody this throughout this semester, do remember that this box needs to be checked. You'll see if I go into my paragraph link, I'm in a home paragraph. This right here, spacing after should be at 0, okay? And this should be at 0. The word is actually set typically at a different number. I think it's like 10 in order to accommodate a business document. But in writing, we don't want auto. We want 0. So you need to select 0 and then okay. Otherwise, you're going to find that your paper is a little shorter than the requirement. Okay. So that's also an important point to follow up with. Okay. Besides that, if you have any questions, let me know. Excellent work. Again, this is just a continuation. It is your same exact topic that you've been working for the first 2 essays. In fact, this essay will become part of WA4. Although I should, comment on many students will use WA2 as the beginning, but this essay will be developed into your final essay in some form. It may form the first, the first part of WA4, or it may be integrated into WA2 to make WA4. But more on that later. Anyway, have a good day. Again, keep up the great work.